We have three authors with us tonight, and Catherine Morgan is probably one that you have heard before. She was the secretary for Love of Spirit, and she was also the secretary for SCoA. And I can't say enough good about everything that Catherine does for us. Tim and Franny, you're new to me, and I'm sure if you hang around with Catherine, you're just as great as she is.
That's a true statement.
The first person I want to introduce tonight is Catherine Morgan. And with a degree in journalism, Catherine has always loved stories. This led her to believe how to read stories about people's lives in their auras and chakras, and seeing how to help those with the stories. She's led to the pursuit of clarification in the Healing Touch program, becoming a Reiki master and a shamanic practitioner. Catherine has continued to expand her learning and teaching of the human energy for over 35 years. Franny is a co-creator of the Awakening Healing Access and the co-author of 5 books. And Franny is a Healing Touch certified practitioner and energy healing facilitator. She is passionate about bringing forward the advanced high frequency healing techniques to the world. Franny has been on a spiritual journey since childhood and embraces the personal gifts and teachings from elders in the healing world. She has blended these techniques in her deep intuitive gifts and discoveries to bring high frequency to her healing practice. And next we have Tim. And he is trained as an engineer and a healer, and Tim bridges the world of science and spirit, and he brings each moment to a profound groundedness, strong sense and higher mind, and powerful intuition to facilitate deep healing for self and others and humanity. Tim is certified as a healing touch practitioner and instructor. He has taught other energy healing modalities as well. And Tim is a co-creator in Awakening Healing Access and is an author co-creating and bringing forward advanced high frequency and healing protocols. And it is my honor to bring you these three authors.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you so much for having us here tonight to share something we're very, very excited about. We feel very blessed to have created this book together and are just so excited to get it into people's hands so they can share the same excitement that we had in developing this material. So we're going to start off tonight just by briefly introducing ourselves and sharing what our connections to the new Chakra Playbook are. And we're going to start with Tim.
Okay, so Tim McConville, I live in the Minneapolis area. And so our work goes way back. Franny and I have been working together for quite some time. And as with Awakening Healing Access, we were doing these really in-depth workshops and writing books about that. But that work is advanced high frequency work. And I don't think we were hitting a really large audience. And it was really, we sometimes joke that it's like the grad school of energy work in those books. And so they're not really meant for the populace and for the common person, because I think you need more of a background. So when Catherine approached us about doing this work, we were really excited because I think it's an opportunity to reach a much broader audience and do it in a more fun way and joyful way, and bring it to a much wider audience. And then the way it worked is that it's not so much who did what with the book, because the whole thing is a collaboration. And so we would get together, and I always say I never teach alone. And so I've got a handful of guides. Who knows how many? Some days the room is filled with them. And so I and my guides, and Franny and her guides, and Catherine and her guides, it's like a giant party. And so the three of us are together with a room full of guides, and work on this, and things come together. And so if it's like not necessarily my idea, some guy put it in my mouth as this words come out. And but between the three of us, we were able to collaborate and really check with the ideas and verify and come up with it was really a neat effort to build this book together, and a lot of fun to do that as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I started with, as Bonnie said in the introduction, I'm one of those people, and I know a lot of people here share this, is having that inner drive to go, well, what is beyond the ordinary senses? I know there's something more that makes this world make sense than what I am experiencing just with the ordinary 3D kind of world. And so that has driven me to train as a psychic, to train to read the aura field, to train as a healer and a healing touch, and deepening that practice. It's been a real drive, and it was through healing touch that I met Franny. Right at the beginning of my journey, like around the 2000s in that area. And then we were in a meditation group together for at least 7 years, probably closer to 10. And then I began studying when she and Tim started developing their advanced work. It's like, okay, sign me up. Because I'd gotten little glimpses of what Franny was starting to bring through. And I said, okay, I know this is going to be really powerful, and it's going to lift me up to the next level. So I've been really fortunate to be with them as they've been developing this amazing body of work. So when I wanted to write another book, I said, well, I want to write about chakras, but I want to write about what Franny and Tim are doing with chakras. So I need to tap into their body of knowledge. And then I can write the book. So I did most of the writing for the book, but it was more us sitting together and going,
Painkillers. And so I will.
What do you think about this? And what do you think about that? What do you think about this? And what about that? And then writing something and then getting their feedback. So it was just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to collaborate and create something together. So Franny, you got to unmute, girl.
Wow, you both said it all. I don't need to say anymore. The fun thing about working with Catherine and Tim is it really is a joyful journey to delve in and what's next, what's coming, what are we bringing forward, why are we bringing this work forward, and how is it going to support the collective consciousness? So what is the purpose of this, and how can we make it joyful and fun and yet very deeply powerful? Catherine, I think we met in 2000, and she always had this sparkly fairy energy about her, and I was always following her guidance and what she needed to do. And so to have that experience with her, I was elated when she reached out and said, hey, you and Tim want to do this book on, we'll play with it on the chakras. I'm like, absolutely. Let's dive into it. And it took us 1.5 years to write the book, but it was such an exciting journey. And with Tim, with Awakening Healing Axis, we already have had a template of how we work and how we bring our work forward. But to gather that knowledge and have Catherine, through Catherine's filters, and as Tim said, all of our guides' filters, was a whole new experience in supporting Catherine in the writing and then all of the filtering. And so, it's just been such a joyful process, and we're really excited about bringing it to the world. So we're hoping that more and more people get to experience it.
Yeah. Yeah. So Tim, would you share with us how this book is different than from other chakra books?
I think in a couple of ways. The first is that the chakra system that we're talking about is a 12 chakra system, whereas the traditional model is 7 chakras. And so that's a fairly major difference right there. And then the other thing is that it's really more a right brain approach than a left brain approach. And so when I think back in learning in chakras, I've been teaching for a long time, since like 15 years or so. And when I was first learning about chakras to teach, it was really more of the left brain stuff. It was it's by rote, and so I had tables full of this. The root chakra has this note, and it's associated with this organ, and it does all these things, and it was kind of like school where you memorize this thing, and that's what it is about the chakras. And so I equate it to some extent. It's more a comparison between religion and spirituality. And so religion is where you take this thing on faith, and you're just told what it is, and you go with that. And so in a lot of ways, that's the way I taught and worked with chakras before. And one of the realizations I came to a few years back, and I was reading a book, and Catherine was, I think, simultaneously reading the same book before we got together, was I started looking at the history of chakras, because I was putting some classes together, and realized that the 7 chakra model really solidified in Western thinking in the 1980s. I was diving deep into Madame Blavatsky's stuff, and well before the 7 chakra system came out. And so we have this notion that the chakras is this ancient knowledge. Well, when you start looking back at it, it's been changing all along the way. What the Vedic system was doing 5,000 years ago doesn't look at anything like the 1980s Western view of chakras. And so it changed all along the way. And so that 1980s view of chakras needs to be updated, and is shifting and changing. And others, Cindy Dale, for one, has been talking about a 12 chakra system. And so it's been interesting that way. And then these other 5 that we talk about here, the 7 plus 5, the other 5 are more the not in the physical part of the body, and they're really more related to our spiritual development and our soul work. And so if you really want to dive deeper into knowing why you're here and what's your soul purpose, I think these other chakras are important in terms of getting to know that. So that's the kind of the bottom line with those.
Mm-hmm. So one of the concepts we introduce with the chakras is the idea of a sacred donut, because donuts just make me smile. I think they make everybody smile. So when you think about a chakra of being a sacred donut, it's like, that puts a different spin on it, right? So, but the reason we call it that is because originally we might think of a chakra as just being a ball of light or a sphere of light or a wheel of light. But actually, how Tim and Franny have seen it is that it's actually a torus, which is which is the shape of a donut. The energy goes in and out and around and swirls. And it's one of those geometric forms that underlies a lot of the systems in the universe. So that is actually the form of a chakra. So we came up with the idea of a sacred donut to be able to give me a way to grasp onto what this energy flow is like. And then Franny, what role do you believe the chakras play in our personal and collective development, and how do they help us align with our soul purpose?
Thanks, Catherine. So the chakras are an adventure hub, shall we say. So each chakra individually, the 1st through the 12th, and We know that there's probably, well, there is many, many more, but this is and many, many systems that teach more. We know that each of the 12 chakras we're working with currently has its own signature, its own information. And the toroidal field of the chakra, that sacred donut, each chakra has a center point. And that center point is the point of pure potential for each chakra. And the information that each 12 chakras hold and our ability to access that information comes through that center point, and that potential of access to not only, Tim said the outer chakras, the 8th through the 12th hold maybe more of the spiritual soul purpose connection. And I absolutely agree with that. And yet within each chakra, we can access why I'm here in the physical form, in that root chakra, say, and what can I connect with at the second chakra in my soul's work. So it can be this ever expanding journey. And the beautiful way, Tim said, we access the right side of the brain with our approach with experientials. So we invite the reader to experience the chakras and dive into the chakras and let the chakras speak to us. What is the chakra telling us about our soul path, about not only my individual soul path, but the people next to me? Just doing my work supports people around me, but also the collective of humanity as we evolve and we expand into the outer chakras, those outer 12 chakras. We're connecting at not only a matrix level, but a cosmic level, potentially a galactic level, and communicating and have that ability, if we step out of our left brain analytical and trying to figure it out, but dropping into each chakra and letting it tell us the story. So the chakras hold such wonderful information to allow us to access what really is my soul path. What is the collective of humanity soul path? And sitting with and being present to the information in each of the chakras is really helpful. And I think the way we bring it forward in the book, we give all sorts of fun and guided imagery, guided stories, guided information on how to explore the chakras before we even give you information about what each chakra itself holds. That kind of that left brain analytical piece, because there's so much information out there. We want you to explore and really find what your way into expanding and finding your information of why you're here.
So how has this new understanding of the chakras impacted your own personal practice or healing work? And we're going to start with Tim on this one.
Just on a personal level, I think it has allowed me to go into my chakras more. And so I think before, and especially when I was teaching, it's like with all the charts and what all the chakras do, I'm doing it in my left brain. And now with the right brain approach is I'm taking more time to kind of sit with these chakras and feel deeper and know more about it. And so in the process of doing that, I've discovered a lot more things about the chakras that I didn't know from the left brain approach. And then from a professional basis, in terms of working with clients, there's a couple things. One is it is diving deeper into the experiential thing and letting go of some of these left brain approaches. But also the way we allow people there to have more ways to experience it. I think some of the teaching I used to do was, or this is how we ground, and you connect down. And here we're offering different ways to ground. And give you a couple client examples of where that's important. From previous teaching, we'd always say that the sacral chakra is the emotion chakra, right? So that's where everything's going on. I have a client whose left ankle is in charge of all emotional content that enters his field. It's like, who the heck would think that, right? And so, not everybody is using their sacral chakra the same way the textbook would have it, or we do. So everybody's different. And then I was working with a client just recently in terms of how to connect with the earth and how to connect with the divine. And I had to go through several ways because she's got a lot of trauma in the background, is that so many words and so many ways to think of things were not safe for her. And to find the right approach and the right languaging to make it safe. And I think we need to have a variety of ways to do that, to find safety for a lot of people. So that's a couple of the different perspectives I have there.
Mm-hmm. For me, because I have a writing background, I went right to, it was a wonder, it was actually a revelation to me that each chakra has its own wisdom, its own intelligence that I could communicate with, that I could ask questions for, like, what do you want me to know? Why is that important? And just to actually journal with the chakras. And I've sat with some groups, and we've done it for each other too. Do chakra reading. It's like, what's important about this? What do you want this person to know about? What do you want this person to know? Just a simple question like that. But also, even just for everyday life, I will check in with the chakras and say, well, what is the wisdom here, for how I could, well, let me give you an example. Is like, me and exercise aren't always the best of friends. So it's like, okay, so let me tap into the wisdom of the chakras and see how that might work better for me. And one of the things that came up was to set a sacred space, to set a prayer, say a prayer before I start my exercise. And it came out of my connection with the seventh chakra. And I'm going, oh yeah. So by doing that, then I recognize the importance of it, and I create a sacred space. And then it's like I know the reason I'm doing the exercise. For me, that's a really important way to do it. So that developing a relationship, developing a creative relationship with the chakras, being able to tap into that wisdom so I get the larger picture of what's going on, and to be sure that I check in, because each one has its own perspective, and to be able to tap into that, especially at the center point, is just an absolute gift. So, Franny?
Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, to expand beyond that, I too am really looking at the collective 12 chakras. So it's kind of a joyful practice of exploration. So asking the big picture, what does my energy system, can my chakras teach me as a collective unit, as I am, as Franny, and then getting a big picture, and then dropping into each chakra and saying, okay, well, what does that root chakra need to access whatever I want to access, and sacral, solar plexus, moving through all 12 chakras individually, but also knowing that they are a collection. So it's really about the exploration. So it's been a fun to shift from, I know that, my solar plexus chakra is my spleen and stomach, and from an organ standpoint, color's yellow, but sometimes I drop in and say, okay, what color do you want to be today? And it's fun. So to really have that joy with my energy system. And then working with clients, it has shifted with the torus, the toroidal field of the chakras. Many years ago in 2013, I developed a workshop on the back chakras, back chakra activation. And I traveled and taught that throughout the country. And because at that time, I had the understanding that there's a back and a front to the chakras. If you look at the spinning in the older pictures of the chakras, they're cone, front and back. So I was working with front and back aspect of the chakras. And it was very valid at that time. And I was able to access the back was the unconscious, front was conscious. And I worked with my clients that way and did a lot of dialoguing and exploring that way. But now with this toroidal field and my consciousness shifting and the understanding, as AHA has brought the work forward with the torus of the chakra, it's there's no longer a front and back. I don't think there ever was per se, but it was the perception. So as I see the field, I see this toroidal field of each chakra, and the information, there's still a back of the energy field and a front of the energy field, but the torus now of the chakra simultaneously brings in the information as well as releases the information or sends it out. And you can have access by tapping into that center point of the chakra at that toroidal field. You have access simultaneously to the conscious and the unconscious information. So working with clients and even with myself, the way of accessing the conscious and unconscious has shifted dramatically, and it gives people a more expansive understanding to access unconscious and then to bring it forward to be able to release and bring it to the conscious so that it can shift. So it's been a great exploration to be able to shift my consciousness around how I teach and how also my understanding of the energy system. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. So what I hope that readers take away from the new Chakra Playbook. In writing the book, Franny and Tim both have always had an emphasis on the importance of joy. That seems like a contrary kind of statement, importance of joy. But when we're in joy, it makes everything light up. Joy is light. And that's what all of this is about. So what I hope readers would take away from the book is a sense of joy, that there's a joy in this practice. That it's not like, oh my gosh, one more thing to add to my to-do list. That it's actually a sense of fun and empowerment and enrichment and discovery and play. And it's just opens up worlds of possibility. So I hope what they take away as they're reading through the book is an opening to a living life in a more empowered way, in a more awake way. So those are just some of the things that I hope they take away. So what has been the most rewarding part of working on the new Chakra Playbook together? Tim?
Well, obviously, as we had said before, working as a triad was fun. And so I think, just creating the book and exploring, and we had to look at things differently. And then we had to go back and rewrite some things that we had already written about it, because when we dove deep from a more right brain approach. But it was just fun to explore and fun to work together. And it was joyful, as Catherine said. And when she was talking about that, it made me think of, those charts where the frequency of different emotions, and love and joy are at the top of the pile. And so that's, it's loving work and joyful work. And so it's like kind of Christmas stuff,
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing is I feel like it's more available now. So that the work we've been doing, I think, is more available and more can be touched by others and more broadly. And interestingly, I've gotten feedback from people that read the book, from both very much novice people that didn't really know much about chakras, that thought it was great, and also some seasoned practitioners that thought it was really good stuff. So it's fun to see that. And just one little one where I was dropping off some books at a bookstore, and the clerk looked at the book, and she's just flipping through, and she stopped at the page of our 10-step prep for doing the work, and she just glanced at that, and she looked up and she said, "I feel different already." And so we know it's making an impact. It can change lives, and that's important for me. So.
Yeah. For me, the most rewarding part was being able to ask these master teachers questions, and then having them tap into the greater collective and pull in this information and pull it through at such high levels, and then to be able to translate that onto the page. It's like, I think I write to teach myself. So So I think it was just such a rewarding way of working, and just for me, it was really revolutionary in my understanding of the chakras. Franny?
Wow, very humbled by that. Thank you, Catherine. Just I always look forward to for the calls. We meet monthly or sometimes 3 weeks, 5 weeks, depending as where we're in the process. But looking forward to getting together and just seeing what comes forward. It's always an adventure. And personally, for me, to give myself permission, that space to dive deeply into the chakras. I've been doing this work since I was a little girl, energy work, and to be able to just keep that exploration going and say, oh, well, what's new today? Even if it was last week that we had a conversation and something came up, I might shoot a text to them or say, oh, well, now I'm understanding that we need to change this and bring this into the work. And to be able to collaborate with Tim and Catherine was so joyful because there's that word again, joyful. It kept us in a high frequency, and that's the crux of all Awakening Healing Access work, is to support people in raising their frequency, to embody more of themselves, and then to be better humans, right? We're here on this path together, and we all chose to be here on the planet at this time. Sometimes I don't always like being in this solid body, but I am. And so to have a team to be able to work with, Catherine and Tim, and them to be able to say, yeah, that's a great idea, or, well, that's not quite it, but let's get together and see what the guides say. And so the other piece when we meet as a triad, we record all of our work, have great discussions, and then I don't use AI, but I transcribe, type out our hour, 2-hour meeting, whatever we're doing, and transcribe it. And I do that because the energy is flowing, and then sometimes more information comes forward. And it's just really, it has always been something that I love doing. A 1-hour recording may take me 8 or 9 hours, or longer, but it's just really part of that process to solidify and to ground and to bring this work so that it can be teachable, so that more people have access to it. And that really is what we're trying to bring forward, is that, we're just the conduit, and we're asked to bring it forward, and we want to share it and want everyone to grasp it and glean it. And the exciting thing is now we're working on another book together on the Hara landscape, and what does the Hara look like, and because that's a whole nother aspect of who we are, and embodiment and raising our frequencies. So that's our next project, which we're so excited about.
So Tim, close us out by sharing, for those just beginning to explore the chakras or those already experienced in energy work, what advice or encouragement would you offer?
Before I directly answer that question, I'm just going to go back a little bit in terms of how we teach sometimes. And that so often we would give some scientific basis and basically explain in a left brain way what's going on. And I would sometimes tell people the next little piece is just a trick to get your left brain to go to sleep. And so I think it's important that we feed our left brain enough to make it go to sleep, so that we can have fun with our right brain. And so my answer then is to read it the way your left brain would want you to at first, and then go back and read it for your right brain. And so some people like to read it front to back. Go ahead and do that. But the book is really made to be an adventure, and it's made to be read slow. And so if you can satisfy your left brain, and then take your time and on the adventure, and take weeks, take any days to read it, and you'll get way more out of it than if you just breeze through it. So that's my advice.
Thank you. So now we want to open the floor up for any questions.